What happens when a warship that survived the Cold War, patrolled the Mediterranean, and served as the flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet meets two Ukrainian missiles it never saw coming? April 13, 2022, provided an answer that shocked the world and sent over 500 Russian sailors scrambling for their lives as their unsinkable cruiser began its final journey to the seabed. Picture this: the Moskva, a massive guided missile cruiser displacing 12,500 tons, cruises through the Black Sea approximately 100 kilometers south of Odessa. It's late evening, what Russian sailors call admiral's hour, that relaxed period after dinner when vigilance naturally drops. The crew of 510 men feels relatively secure. They're far from shore, beyond the range of most Ukrainian weapons. Their ship bristles with air defense systems supposedly capable of tracking and destroying multiple incoming threats simultaneously. What could possibly threaten them out here? And then, somewhere in the darkness, Ukrainian operators launch a carefully orchestrated deception that will send Russia's Black Sea Fleet flagship to the bottom and change naval warfare forever. The Moskva, Russia's floating fortress. To understand Ukraine's victory, you need to understand what they sank. The Moskva, once named Slava, meaning glory, wasn't just any ship. Commissioned in 1983 at the height of the Cold War, it was a Project 1164 Atlant-class guided missile cruiser built to hunt American aircraft carriers in a potential World War III. At 186 meters long, armed with 16 anti-ship cruise missiles, 64 long-range S-300F surface-to-air missiles, 40 short-range OSMAs, torpedoes, and advanced radar, the Moskva was designed to withstand the deadliest NATO assaults. It served in Georgia, Syria, and later led Russia's naval campaign against Ukraine, a proud flagship and propaganda icon for Moscow. But its strength belonged to another era. Built for traditional warfare, the Moskva was never designed to face the modern realities of drones, electronic warfare, and precision-guided missiles. Against 21st century tactics, this Cold War titan never stood a chance. The setup: Ukrainian innovation meets naval tradition. Ukrainian planners faced a brutal question. How do you sink a 500-ton warship built to repel simultaneous threats? The answer was creativity, deception, and perfect timing. Ukraine had Neptune anti-ship missiles, modernized Soviet-rooted cruise missiles with approximately 280-kilometer range and a 150-kilogram warhead capable of crippling a ship. But the Moskva's air defenses were designed to spot and kill cruise missiles. So Kyiv exploited the weakest link: human attention. Radars can track many targets, but crews can focus on only a few. Fix their gaze, and something else might slip through. Enter the TB2 Bayraktar drone. Not supersonic or stealthy, but attention-grabbing. Russian crews prioritized aerial threats. Ukraine planned a simple, elegant trap. Send TB2S from one direction to draw and occupy air defenses, then launch Neptunes from another. It was timing, psychology, and cross-domain coordination. Drone distraction plus missile strike. A small, ruthless choreography that turned layered defenses into a fatal vulnerability. April 13th, 2022, when deception met execution. Timing in warfare isn't just important, it's everything. Ukraine chose to strike the Moskva during admiral's hour, a quiet evening period when Russian crews relaxed, vigilance faded, and watches rotated. It was the perfect moment when routine dulled readiness. From Ukrainian-controlled territory, TB2 drones took flight, approaching from a direction that made them visible to the Moskva's radar. On board, alarms blared. Radar operators tracked the drones, air defense crews rushed to stations, and officers shouted orders across the bridge. Every eye fixed upward on the flashing blips of the TB2S, focused on the obvious threat. But that was the trap. While Russian attention locked on the drones, 2 Neptune missiles streaked low across the Black Sea from another direction. Flying just above the waves, nearly invisible to radar, they closed in fast. By the time Russian operators detected them, it was too late. The first Neptune slammed into the Moskva's port side, tearing through steel and detonating deep within. Moments later, the second struck, unleashing another explosion that crippled the ship and ignited raging fires. In modern naval warfare, seconds decide everything. And that night, Ukraine made every one of them count. The death of a flagship, when steel burns. What does it look like when a 12,500-ton warship begins to die? Survivors and intelligence reports describe pure chaos aboard the Moskva after the Neptune missiles struck. The blasts tore open the hull below the waterline, sending seawater flooding through compartments while fires erupted across the decks. With massive stores of fuel, ammunition, and missiles on board, the ship became a floating inferno. The crew faced an impossible situation: flooding below, flames above, and the constant fear that the ammunition magazines would ignite. Power flickered, communication lines failed, and 100 kilometers from shore, the Moskva fought for her life. Damage control teams battled fires with foam and water, engineers tried to contain flooding, and officers struggled to maintain order. As reality set in, Russian command ordered the crew to abandon ship. Over 500 sailors plunged into the freezing Black Sea under a sky lit by their burning vessel. Not all made it out. Russia officially admitted only 1 death, but reports indicate many more were lost to explosions, fires, and the sea itself. On April 14, 2022, while being towed towards Sevastopol, the Moskva rolled over and sank, resting 80 meters below, a steel tomb and a symbol of Ukrainian precision and resolve. The tactical masterpiece, how Ukraine pulled it off. Let's break down what made this operation so brilliant, because this wasn't just lucky. This was executed with precision that military academies will study for decades. First, the intelligence. Ukrainian forces knew where the Moskva was operating, its patrol patterns, and apparently its defensive posture. This suggests excellent maritime surveillance capabilities. Second, the deception. Using TB2 drones as a distraction was inspired. The drones presented a credible enough threat that Russian doctrine demanded they be engaged, but they weren't the real danger. It's the military equivalent of a magician's misdirection. Get your audience looking at your right hand while your left hand does the trick. Third, the timing. Striking during admiral's hour, when crew alertness is naturally lower, showed psychological understanding of naval operations. Combined with the darkness-limiting visual detection, this timing maximized Ukrainian chances of success. Fourth, the coordination. This operation required perfect synchronization between TB2 operators and Neptune missile crews operating completely different systems in different locations. The drones had to engage Russian attention at exactly the right moment for the missiles to approach undetected. One system too early or too late, and the whole plan fails. Fifth, the execution. 2 missiles hitting their targets sounds simple until you consider the technical challenges. The Neptunes had to navigate over 100 kilometers of open water, maintain low altitude to avoid radar detection, correct course based on targeting data, and successfully strike a moving ship in darkness, while that ship's defenses were partially active. Ukraine essentially used 21st century technology and tactics to defeat a Cold War-era warship that was theoretically equipped to defend itself. That's not luck, that's operational art. The strategic earthquake. What sinking the Moskva meant. A single sunken ship might not seem strategically decisive in a war involving hundreds of thousands of troops, but the loss of the Moskva sent shockwaves through Russian naval planning that are still being felt. First, the immediate tactical impact. The Moskva was the command and control center for Black Sea Fleet operations. Its sophisticated radar and communication systems coordinated other vessels. Its S-300F long-range air defense missiles provided area coverage protecting other ships. Losing the flagship didn't just remove one ship, it degraded the entire fleet's effectiveness. Second, the psychological impact on Russian forces. If Ukraine could sink the Black Sea Fleet's flagship, a ship specifically designed to survive combat, what else could they hit? Russian naval officers suddenly had to operate knowing their vessels were vulnerable to Ukrainian anti-ship missiles. The Black Sea went from being Russian-controlled waters to a contested battle space. Third, the strategic shift in Russian naval operations. After the Moskva sank, Russian warships largely withdrew from the northwestern Black Sea. Ships that previously operated relatively close to the Ukrainian coast relocated to more distant positions. This reduced their ability to support ground operations, conduct shore bombardment, or threaten Ukrainian coastal cities. Ukraine effectively pushed Russian naval power away from its shores without having a navy capable of traditional sea control. Fourth, the international propaganda victory. Ukraine demonstrated it could strike back effectively against Russian military power. The images of the burning, sinking Moskva became global symbols of Ukrainian resistance. For Western nations supporting Ukraine, the sinking proved that military aid was being used effectively. Fifth, the precedent for modern naval warfare. The Moskva became the largest warship sunk in combat since World War II. Military analysts worldwide took note. Drones combined with anti-ship missiles could defeat even well-armed surface combatants. This has implications for naval planning far beyond the Black Sea. Russia's response: denial, rage, and adaptation. How do you explain to the Russian public that your flagship just sank? The initial Russian response was to deny Ukrainian involvement entirely, claiming an accidental fire and ammunition explosion. This explanation was obviously inadequate. Modern warships don't just spontaneously explode, but admitting the truth would be worse. Eventually, Russia quietly acknowledged the ship had been lost, but maintained the fiction of an accident. Russian state media largely stopped discussing the incident, and the story disappeared from official narratives. The less said about the embarrassing defeat, the better. The question that haunts Russian admirals. If 2 Neptune missiles could sink the Black Sea Fleet flagship, what else might Ukrainian weapons reach? This question fundamentally changed Russian naval operations in the Black Sea and continues to constrain Russian options. The wreckage of the Moskva lies on the seabed, a steel monument to what happens when underestimated adversaries find creative solutions to seemingly impossible challenges. Every Russian warship captain operating in the Black Sea knows the Moskva's story. They know it could happen to them. And somewhere in Ukraine, operators maintain their Neptune missile systems and TB2 drones, ready to write the next chapter in the story of how a nation without a navy controlled its maritime approaches through innovation, courage, and the willingness to take calculated risks against seemingly superior forces. They learned too late that in modern warfare, safety is an illusion and superiority is temporary, especially when your enemy is fighting for survival and willing to try tactics you never anticipated. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most significant naval operations of the 21st century, smash that like button and subscribe for more content covering the tactics, technology, and human stories behind modern warfare.